This is just frustrating as all bloody heck. Shemar Stewart might eventually just go back to college. And it is what it is at this point. So this whole offseason, he's been working out with Texas A&M again. And he's been doing all the workouts that he's supposed to do to, technically speaking, get back on the team. This is coming in here from Warren Sharp, who says, a guy who has had some good Texas A&M stuff in the past. He hit me. He's like, hey, Shemar might end up back here. He's been at the college station. He's been fully involved in workouts. And then he continues to say he could try to come back and play this season and go into the draft next year. So, and I'm going to take my face cam off for a second to show you that. Yeah, it's a mess. It really is. You know, he's not doing training camp, apparently. He is going to be doing this stuff. So, Warren Sharp does say, wait, so the Bengals first-round pick, Shemar Stewart, left the team and went back to college to practice with Texas A&M. He might not play this year in the NFL, return to college instead, and then enter the 2026 NFL Draft. So, that... the language, as we know, he is very against. He has been very clear about that. And he does not want to be made an example out of when it comes to being the first Bengal with the language of that the Bengals are trying to push. So this was a circumstance that we thought might happen, and it was rumored to happen. It looks like it's going to happen. Shemar Stewart's going to be going back to college, and obviously, right now, nothing is defined, nothing is 100%, but if the situation does not rectify itself right now, and we're still in the same spot a month from now, he's going back to college. Like, if we're in the same spot in a month, he's going back to college. Which is just... it's frustrating. It really is frustrating that this is how this story might end, is that we just wasted a first round pick, and yeah, it is what it is. And again, I say it's not right, but it is what it is, because we can't change how this all shook out. I mean, the Bengals could if they signed him, and, you know, but again, like I said, I don't know if they're going to do that. Oh, man. So he's going to spend another year at college. I don't know if he'll put up any better stats than 4.5 sacks over 3 years. Maybe, maybe not. And then he'll end up back in the NFL draft next year. And anyone could draft him. You know, obviously, I made comments before saying we might draft him to be petty, but reality-wise, we wouldn't. It's going to be interesting to see how this ends up working out, because this will be the first time we've seen a player do this in NFL history, where they literally go back to college. Like, John Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts, but he didn't say he's going to go back to college. He said that I'd rather play pro baseball than play for the Baltimore Colts. That's not going back to college. Eli Manning situation, he didn't threaten to go back to college. No player in NFL history threatened to go back to college. Every other player was like, oh, I'm just not going to play then. This is the first situation where a player is threatening to go back to college and potentially going back to college. He's not, and I full-heartedly say this, he's not going to get drafted in this next draft, though. If he does this and he goes back to, you know, college, I guarantee you the owners are going to come together and refuse to draft this guy. Like, they're all going to say, hey, listen, I don't care how good he is or how bad he is, we are not drafting him in any of the 7 rounds. It's funny because he doesn't want to be made an example out of here, right, with the Bengals, but he's going to be made an example out of because the owners are going to come together and say, we're going to snip this in the butt. We are not going to allow players to think that this is okay or that they can do this. So by all the owners coming together and saying we're not going to draft him when he hits the draft next year, he's going to go undrafted. And if all the owners come together and say, we're just not even going to pick him up, we're going to let him, you know, be on free agency and have to, you know, leave the NFL, that's going to prove a point that this is not okay and that players cannot do this moving forward. So that's my opinion. I think owners will come together and do this. The same thing happened with Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson was, wanted a fully guaranteed contract, and the NFL owners came together and said, we're not going to trade for him. Because, again, you look back at it, the Falcons could have traded for Lamar Jackson. All they had to give up was 2 first-round picks and his contract. But they didn't. And all the owners came together when the Ravens put the non-exclusive franchise tag on him, and they said, we're not going after him. We're not going to trade for him. We're not going to try to get him because we don't want this to be an example moving forward that everyone wants fully guaranteed contracts. Same concept's going to happen here. Owners are going to say, nobody drafts him, nobody picks him up, nobody does anything. And then now the next player that wants to do the same thing is going to say, well, look what happened to Shemar Stewart. He wasn't able to play in the NFL. He got cut out of the NFL because of the fact that he did it. It's going to stop it and nip it in the butt. I'm just telling you what's going to happen, not fully what I believe or what I think is right or wrong. And I do want to preface that by saying I'm just telling you what's going to happen. I'm not saying what's right or wrong or what a player should do or shouldn't do or what an owner should do or shouldn't do. I'm just telling you what's going to happen because this is something that I know a lot of owners do not want to become a principal. They do not want this to be a thing. Because the last thing you want is half of the first round picks to maybe not like their contracts and then say, we're not going to play. We'll go back to college. That would ruin the NFL draft. That would ruin the NFL. So this is something where it's like you're kind of playing with fire, and the Bengals need to handle this in a smart way. We'll see, though. WWA Thoughts Opinions. See you guys next one.